Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Jinzo deck profile. So this deck is a deck that is a really amazing deck that can summon the Trap Lord himself, Jinzo, to your side of the field. And I have to say, I've gone through about 7 to 8 different versions of this deck to finally get to this point, because this deck is a very interesting deck and is a very spicy build of Jinzo, hence the red on the sleeves. This deck is really fun to play around with and can summon some really amazing boss monsters, and is just an overall cool deck. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description in every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, or even getting to request a deck profile every single month through Patreon, along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of the Trap Lord himself, Jinzo. So this card basically makes it so neither player can activate trap cards, and all face-up trap cards have their effects negated. This card is absolutely crazy and shuts down a third of the Yu-Gi-Oh game on summon, which is absolutely crazy. I love summoning this card to my side of the field with a couple of the other boss monsters that I play, and this deck can totally shut your opponent down, which is what's really nice about this deck. I love summoning Jinzo to my side of the field because he's literally one of the most nostalgic cards in the entire game, and I've had, actually, I think one of these copies, I think is the middle one, since I was just little, which is really amazing from when I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! So then I'm going to be playing 3 copies of Jinzo the Machine Menace. Jinzo the Machine Menace is the retrain of Jinzo that actually can special summon itself to your side of the field. So you guys might be thinking, wait, it's searchable. Why are you playing this at 3? You can play this at 2 and it'd be fine. No, you need 3. So what this card does is if there's a trap face up on the field or in the graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if you do, it becomes level 6 until the end of the turn. And during the main phase, quick effect, you contribute this card to special summon 1 Jinzo monster, or Jinzo, from your hand or graveyard. Then, you can destroy all trap cards your opponent controls, and if it's set, you reveal it if it's in their back row, and then you can only use the effect of this card once per turn. This card is really cool, and I love the artwork of it, and it is a 3-of to me because it's really easy to summon to my side of the field with one of the engines that I'm actually playing in the deck. So you want to play this card as a 3-of in this build. We then play 1 copy of Psychic Mega Cyber. Psychic Mega Cyber is really interesting and actually is an out to Dragoons. Because what this card does is if your opponent controls more spells and traps than you do, you can special summon this card from your hand, and you can special summon this card once per turn this way. And when this card declares an attack or an opponent's monster on an opponent's effect monster, and you control Jinzo, you contribute this card and place that opponent's monster in the face-up spell and trap card zone as a continuous trap, which then lets you special summon your Jinzo the Machine Menace, which is really cool. And also this card places, it doesn't target, so you can actually do it on any card in the game, which is really cool, unless it says it's unaffected by other card effects. We then play 2 copies of Psychic Bounder. Psychic Bounder is really good as a 2-of. I don't play it at 3 anymore because I kept clogging with it at 3, because what this card does is if it's normal or special summoned, you can add a Jinzo or a spell or trap that specifically lists Jinzo and its text from your deck to your hand. And when another monster you control is attacked by an opponent's attacking monster, before damage calculation, you can destroy both the attacking monster and this card. So it can actually protect some of your cards as well, which is really nice for this particular deck. We then play a single copy of Jinzo Returner. I just play 1 Jinzo Returner because it is a really good card and it combos really well with Psychic Wave, but you just need it as a 1-of to go off with the copy of Psychic Wave in this particular deck. When it's sent to the graveyard, you get to special summon Jinzo from the graveyard, but the only unfortunate thing is it destroys the Jinzo during the end phase. We then play 3 copies of Summoner Monk. Summoner Monk is probably one of the best cards in the entire deck. You discard a spell, you instantly get to special summon a level 4, which is your Psychic Bounder, and then Psychic Bounder gives you a search, which is always going to be Law of the Cosmos that you're going to be grabbing out of the deck for this card's effect. Because it's going to get you an additional search out of the deck, and it kind of replaces the 1-for-1 that you went for the Summoner Monk to be able to discard to special summon Psychic Bounder, and it essentially turns it into a +1, which is really nice. We then play a single copy of Armageddon Knight. Armageddon Knight is really good because Armageddon Knight can send the next card that we're playing to the graveyard, and it can also send your copy of Jinzo or Jinzo Returner to the graveyard to then get the Jinzo Returner to revive your copy of Jinzo. We then play a single copy of Plague Spreader. The Plague Spreader is really good because if this card is in the graveyard, you can place a card from your hand on top of your deck, and then immediately special summon this card to your side of the field. Which then, it being a level 2 tuner monster and having a bunch of level 6s in the deck, can get you into some really neat synchro plays. We then play a single copy of the Phantom Knights of Ancient Cloak. Ancient Cloak is really good, and a single copy of Silent Boots, because we play a Phantom Knight engine in this deck. Now you guys might be thinking, wait a minute, Phantom Knights use traps. You're playing Jinzo. How does that work? Well, I'll show you. So you actually play Shade Brigandine at 3 in this deck. So the reason you play Shade Brigandine, and the reason I said Jinzo the Machine Menace is so good in here, is because of this one card. You can actually search it out from the deck with your copy of Silent Boots or Ancient Cloak, and then once you get it from your deck to your hand, you set it and then immediately activate this card, and then link it away for a card that I play in the extra deck, and then you can special summon Jinzo the Machine Menace for free, which is really cool. You can actually end with the Jinzo on your side of the field and a copy of Shade Brigandine on your, or Rusty Bardige on your side of the field, with a couple of other cards backing it up, but basically you're trying to get out your copy of Jinzo as quickly as possible, and playing the Phantom Knight engine is just an extra added bonus for the deck. We then play a single copy of Red Eyes Black Dragon and a single copy of Dark Magician, because you are playing Dragoons in this build, because if you get out Dragoons plus Jinzo, you've pretty much won the game, and it's really helpful to be able to do that. Or Shade Brigandine, or not Shade Brigandine, Rusty Bardige with 2 Fog Blades and a copy of your Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, you pretty much win at that point, because you've got 3 negates and a Dragoons on field. Your opponent's going to have a really hard time outing that. And basically, these are here because it's super nostalgic to play Dark Magician, Red Eyes, and Jinzo all in the same deck. Like, I just don't know how much cooler that can get in a particular deck. So, that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Monster Reborn. This is going to revive out all of your monsters out of the graveyard and get the exact card that you need when you need it, and helps you get your Jinzo back out of the graveyard as well. Play a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial helps you out a lot in this deck, because the Foolish Burial will send your copies of your Jinzo, Jinzo Returner, or your copy of Plague Spreader to the graveyard, so you can get all sorts of really good plays. 1 copy of Red Eyes Fusion. This is just here to go into your copy of Dragoons. 1 copy of Called by the Grave. The Called by the Grave is here to stop your opponent's hand traps against you. It's really, really helpful to go use this card against your opponent to be able to just stop all those hand traps that your opponent's going to try and do against you while you're popping off. We play 3 copies of Allure. The Allures are really helpful because they help you dig into the deck a little bit to help you get all sorts of really good plays. 3 copies of Law of the Cosmos. Law of the Cosmos is really helpful because your opponent gets to either, your opponent can set 1 trap directly from their hand and or deck, and then if they did, you get to special summon Jinzo from the deck, and if they did not, you get to add Jinzo or a monster that specifically lists Jinzo in its text from your deck to your hand, which is Psychic Bounder, or your copy of your Psychic Mega Cyber. You can add Mega Cyber, Bounder, or your Jinzo Returner from your deck to your hand, or Jinzo from your deck to your hand off this card effect. Usually it's going to be Psychic Bounder if you don't already have a normal summon in your hand, which usually you will, but it's going to get you the majority of your plays off. But sometimes your opponent will be kind of silly and think, I can deal with a Jinzo, and they'll just set a trap like an Imperm face down, or if they're playing Eldritch, they'll set an Eldritch trap face down, and then the Dragoons will hit, and they'll go, oh, I made a mistake, which is really funny. We then play 3 copies of Psychic Wave. Psychic Wave is really good because what this card does is, I actually really underestimated this card in previous Jinzo builds because I didn't even play it. And I'm really kind of sad that I didn't, because this card is really good. Because what it does is, if you control a machine monster, then you can send a Jinzo from your hand and or deck to the graveyard and then inflict 600 points of damage to your opponent, which can help you in time to win in time. And it also helps you out a lot as well, because during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard and then target a machine monster in your grave and send a Jinzo monster from your deck to the graveyard. And if you do, add that target to your hand. So basically, the way this card resolves is really cool, to actually send the Returner to the graveyard off the second effect to get the Jinzo back. And if you have another Jinzo in grave, you can revive the Jinzo, which is kind of neat. I like the way that interacts. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps, which I know we're playing traps in a Jinzo deck. What is the world coming to? So, we're going to open up with 2 copies of Fogblade. The Fogblade's really awesome in this deck because the Fogblade will negate your opponent's monster effects, and it's really easy to search with your copy of Rusty Bardige. We play 3 copies of the Phantom Knights of Shade Brigandine, which is arguably one of the most important cards you want to see as quickly as possible, because it's going to get you your trap to then special summon out your Jinzo the Machine Menace to your side of the field as quickly as possible. You can even, if you open up Jinzo and you set this and then activate it, you can tribute this to actually summon Jinzo to your side of the field if you know your opponent's playing a very heavy trap deck, depending on how fast you want Jinzo on your side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence because it also gets you 3 more traps to get them into the graveyard, and it can negate an opponent's card effect if you do get pushed to go second. It can negate a monster effect, which is pretty good if your opponent does decide to go first, and they set a bunch of back row, they normal summon a monster, you can negate it with this, and then you can immediately activate the copy of Shade during your turn, and then tribute summon out Jinzo and lock their back row, which is really fun to do, by the way. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're playing a single copy of Jinzo Layered. This card is really good in the deck. You just need one of it, to be honest with you guys. This is a little hard to summon because you have to use 2 Jinzos to go into this. And basically what it does is it takes 2 level 6s, but the only level 6s we're playing is Jinzo the Machine Menace on summon, and then it becomes level 7 during the next turn, and a Jinzo. So what you do is you detach a material from this card, and it basically Big Eyes. It takes control of an opponent's monster, and also if a trap is on the field, you contribute a monster, and if you do, destroy that face-up card on the field, which is pretty good to be able to negate traps a little bit, or destroy one face-up card on the field if a trap is activated. This card's pretty good in the deck as a 1-of. I probably wouldn't play it in any more than 1, though. Play a single copy of Vampire Sheridan, because if you do Big Eye away opponent's monster, you can treat it as a level 6 to go into this card, so I play this card as a 1-of. We play a single copy of Baguska, because Baguska is really good in the deck to be able to just kind of slow the game down if you need to. If you summon out a copy of Monk, and then you get out a copy of, say, for example, a Shade Brigandine, and you're kind of stuck there, you can overlay into Baguska to kind of stall out a little bit until you can get your plays really going. We then play a single copy of Raiders Knight and a single copy of Arc Rebellion, because you can go into a really big beat stick in the form of Arc Rebellion and Raiders Knight to OTK your opponent, so these cards come in really, really helpful in the deck. One copy of AA Zeus, because you can make it on top of literally any of these cards, and then it comes out as a really awesome board wipe, so it's super, super helpful in this particular deck. We have a single copy of Void Ogre Dragon, because Void Ogre Dragon can negate spells or traps, and usually you will end with no cards in hand unless you're playing Dragoons on your side of the field, and then at that point you might have 1 card in your hand to be able to go into your copy of your Dragoons negate, but then your Void Ogre turns on and your opponent can't activate a spell or trap, because this will negate a spell or trap. We then play a single copy of Beals, because Beals is a big beat stick and is really hard to out, and so I played as a 1-of as my other synchro monster that you can go into in this deck. Then we play a single copy of Dragoons. To round out the fusions, we only play the 1. The Dragoons is really good in the deck because you can end on Dragoons and the Shade Brigandine, or not Shade Brigandine, but Rusty Bardige plus Dragoons and the 2 Fog Blades, or you can end with Jinzo plus Dragoons, and it's really hard to out at that point. We then play a single copy of Boral Sword to help me with OTKs. It's really helpful to just summon this to your side of the field. It's really easy to put 4 monsters on the field with this deck as well, surprisingly, and just summon this card and OTK your opponent. We play a single copy of the Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardige, because this card is really easy to summon too, and gets you basically 2 Fog Blades, and it can also get your copy of Shade Brigandine to your side of the field really easily. We play a single copy of Unicorn because it spins stuff, IP Masqueranda to go into the copy of Unicorn, Anaconda because the Anaconda actually wants Bun's Hun, or doesn't want Bun's Hun, and you can actually use this to go into your Dragoons. And then we play a single copy of Imduk. Imduk is really, really good in this deck, and it's surprising tech actually, because you have to use 2 effect monsters to go into your Anaconda, and when you summon your copy of Shade Brigandine, it's a normal monster because it doesn't have an effect. So you actually link this away to summon the Imduk to then use another monster plus the Imduk to summon actually your copy of Anaconda to then summon Dragoons. So it's kind of a weird roundabout way to actually go into Dragoons, but this has to go into Imduk and then another effect monster. Kind of weird. Can be your normal summon as well. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. It was a really spicy deck. I really love this deck. It's one of those decks that you work on for a while, and then you sit it down, and then you kind of pick it up again, and then you work on it a little bit, and then it works, and then it kind of got to play with it again. It's super fun, it's super weird, and it's really amazing that this deck actually came together, because this deck is a deck that I've been working on for probably about 6 months since the previous build, and just playing around with it to try and pick at it, and like I said, it's taken me like 7 to 8 builds to get to this point, but it's really fun. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.